Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be walking you through how to make an authentic German black forest cake without the alcohol. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I encourage you to like, subscribe and comment below. And let's get to it. So we're going to start off by sifting your flour, your cocoa powder and your salt together. This will ensure that these dry ingredients are combined evenly. I will be sifting them twice to ensure that they are well incorporated together. So next, I will be cracking 5 whole eggs and separating 2 egg yolks for this recipe. The 2 egg yolks are optional, but I've included them in this recipe just to give the cake a little more richness. So you can exclude them if you don't want to include them. So now it's time to mix together the wet ingredients. So we'll start off with the eggs and then we'll add the sugar. Next we'll add the chocolate extract. You can use vanilla extract if you do not have chocolate extract. And then I'll add honey. So one is scraping all that honey. And then we'll turn on the mixer and get it mixing. So while the egg mixture is whisking away in the mixer, what I'm doing here is preparing my pan for the cake. So I'm folding a square parchment paper into 2 triangles, putting it in the center of the pan and cutting across along the edge of the pan so I can get a circle shaped parchment paper. So this is what I do when I do not have a circle shaped parchment paper at home. So here you'll see that these circle pieces of parchment fit perfectly into my tin. So there's a tip for you that you can use when you do not have circle shaped parchment paper at home. Alright, so now back to our egg mixture. You'll see now that our eggs are light, fluffy and airy. This is what you want the egg mixture to look like before you start incorporating the dry ingredients. This is what we call the ribbon stage. So that's perfect. It's time to add in our dry ingredients, and I'll be doing this in 2 stages, right? So that's the first part of the dry ingredients. So I will be incorporating it using the J stroke. So what this does is it helps you incorporate the dry ingredients into the egg mixture without losing too much air. This is a sponge cake and we do not want it to lose too much air. So I will be mixing this thoroughly, and then that's the second batch right there. And then same thing, I will mix it in using the J stroke, and I'll continue to mix it until it's mixed in thoroughly and there are no more streaks of dry ingredients showing. So next I will be filling my baking pan about 2/3 of the way full. Now once the cake pans are filled, I'll be banging them hard on the countertop so they release any air bubbles, and then putting them in the oven for at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 35 minutes. So next I will be preparing the dough for the shortbread crust. Here I'm mixing the zest of 1 lemon with the sugar to enhance the lemon flavor within the crust. Right now I'm going to add the butter, the sugar, lemon mix, and the salt into the mixer, and then mix them together using the paddle attachment. So next I'm mixing together the baking powder and the flour before I add them into the mixer. So after the butter, sugar, and salt have been mixing for about a minute in the mixer, I'll be adding 1 egg, and then I'll add my vanilla extract. After about a minute of mixing, you'll notice that the mixture is no longer homogeneous, but that's fine. It's time to add the flour and baking powder mixture. So you want to add that gently and mix with the paddle attachment until just combined. So you don't want to overwork the dough so it doesn't get tough. So here I'm going to lightly flour the surface of my countertop before adding the dough, and then just rolling it carefully. So I'm trying not to knead it too much so the dough doesn't get tough. Yep, so I'm just going to roll it a little bit. And now it's ready to put in some plastic wrap, and this will go into the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. And now it's time to prepare our cherries for the cherry syrup and the cherry filling. So here you see I'm pitting the cherries using a straw. So I just push it in the center and it pops out the cherry seeds. Next we'll cut the cherries into quarters. Next put about a quarter of the cherries, half a cup of water and half a cup of sugar in a pot and stir over medium heat for about 5 to 10 minutes. Once it's heated through, you want to mash it using a potato masher to bring out all of the cherry flavor. Next you want to strain that in a strainer thoroughly, and then what you're left with is your cherry simple syrup. So now it's time to make the cherry filling. you want to pour in the rest of your cherries into the pot. Add your sugar, cinnamon, and salt to the cherries, and then add the water and stir everything together over medium heat. While that's heating up, mix your cornstarch and about 2 tablespoons of water, and that'll create the cornstarch slurry. Once the cherries start to bubble or start to boil, then you add your cornstarch slurry into your cherry mix and continue to mix over medium heat until it thickens. So you want to continue to do this until you start to see the first sign of bubbles. Next, you take it off the heat and pour it into a container and then let it chill. So you need your cherry filling and your cherry simple syrup to chill completely before you can use them for the cake. Now it's time to prepare the crust for our cake. You bring out your shortbread dough from the fridge and you want to dust it with a little flour and then roll until it's about the thickness that you need. Yeah, so if you want a thick cookie dough, you want a lot more cookie, you can keep your crust thick, or if you want really thin, you can roll it thin. It just means your baking times will vary depending on how thick the crust is. So here I'm sizing out the circle that I'll need for the crust using my baking pan. So you just roll off the excess and then you're left with the crust that you need for your cake. So next you want to dock the crust or prick it with a fork. So this will ensure that it doesn't bubble up or create bubbles in the oven. Bake for 350 degrees for about 25 minutes or until it's brown around the edges and it's ready. You leave that to cool. Now your cakes are cool and ready. To get them out of the pan, you want to run a dull knife around the edges of the pan and then just tap. So this is typical of sponge cakes because they don't have any oil in them and there's nothing to loosen the cake from the edges of the pan. So you want to make sure you use a dull knife so you do not ruin your baking pans. So you want to take the parchment paper off and now they are ready to cut. So here you see I've cut them into 4 equal layers. So let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to put together a tutorial on how I cut my cakes into even layers. So here I'm creating the chocolate shavings for the cake. So all you just need is a sharp knife and a chocolate bar and you're good to go. Next we're going to prepare the whipped cream for the cake. So put your heavy cream in your mixing bowl and using a whisk attachment, you want to whisk until you have soft peaks. Also add your sugar to the whipped cream while it whisks. So while it's whisking away, you want to prepare your gelatin. So you combine your gelatin and water and let it bloom. So it'll take about 5 minutes for it to bloom and then you want to place it in a container with hot water, or you can do this on a double boiler as well. Stir, stir, stir until it dissolves completely. Next you want to add the sugar to the gelatin and then you want to stir until it's completely dissolved. So So now we want to add the gelatin to the whipped cream, but we cannot add it directly because gelatin is still hot and will melt your whipped cream. So what you want to do is temper the whipped cream by putting some of it in the gelatin and stirring it. That will bring down the temperature of your gelatin mixture. And then you want to combine that back with the rest of the batch of whipped cream. So now you whisk the mixture together until it stiffens and it is ready to use. If you're still here at this stage of the tutorial, thank you for being here with me. I truly appreciate your time. If you haven't liked this video, I encourage you to do so. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button below. Right now, the whipped cream is ready, and we are going to move on to the more interesting part of putting everything together. So we'll put some whipped cream in our piping bag. So here you see I'm using a cup to hold the piping bag. This makes it easier to handle the piping bag. So I'll set that aside. Nope, I put a little more in. Okay. So there's our crust, and we are going to put on a little bit of jam. So here I'm putting a little raspberry jam. You can put apricot jam or lemon jam, whatever your favorite is. And what this will do is it will help us to kind of stick the cake onto the crust. So act like a glue for the cake. So that's my first layer going down on the crust. Next, I'll put some simple syrup on the cake, and feel free to put as much as you need on the cake. This is a sponge cake, so it's made to absorb syrup or liquids. So next you want to pipe a dam around the cake. So this is a circle right around the edge of the cake. And what this will do is it will help to keep your filling in the cake so it doesn't seep out the sides when you start to stack the layers one on top of another. So there's the cherry filling, which you want to put in the center of your cake. So just pack it on. Right there. So just pack it right on. So you can get a lot of that delicious cherry filling in your cake, and then you put the next layer on. Pat it down a little bit just so it's well compressed, and then put a little more cherry simple syrup on there. So again, put as much as you need. The cake will absorb it, no issues. And then put on a bit of whipped cream. So level that off with your offset spatula. Then put on your next layer of cake. And yours, we'll put on a little more simple syrup. And so this will keep the cake moist. Next, we'll create another dam. So it's the same thing over again. So we'll create the dam again, and then we'll put the cherry filling in the middle. And then you put the top layer on and put on some more simple syrup like you'll see me do here. So that's the last layer going on. So in total we had 4 layers. And you want to put on more simple syrup. Again, this will keep the cake moist. And then you pack on the whipping cream or the whipped cream. And then you level it off with your offset spatula. So you can see it's nice and thick, so it's easy to level off on the cake. And you want to do this right on the top and around the sides of the cake. And remember, we're going to be covering this off with some chocolate shavings, so it doesn't have to be absolutely smooth. But you can do the best you can with it. So I'm just filling in some empty spots, and I'm just going to smooth it out with my smoother. Next, we put the shavings on the cake, and you'll notice I'm using my offset spatula here. This is so that my warm hands don't melt the chocolate. So you want to do this all around the chocolate until you get all the way to the top. Also, if you like, you can just do the bottom parts of the cake, your choice. So here I'm going to continue to use the offset spatula to put the chocolate shavings on the cake. You see, it makes it really easy, and that way you don't get your hands messy and you don't get the chocolate melted. Alright, next I am going to add some chocolate shavings to the middle of the cake and just spread it around with my offset spatula. And here I'm piping using my Wilton star tip, and I'm going to do that all around the circumference at the top of the cake. And then we'll finish off with our cherries. So we're almost there. It's almost done. There's another cherry. And so in total, I will be adding 6 cherries to the top of this 6-inch cake. So now I'm going to move the blackforest cake to my cake stand, and don't be like me, be a little careful so you do not nick the bottom of your cake. And remember, it's easy to move this cake because we have a shortbread crust at the bottom of the cake, so it makes it easy to move it onto your cake stand. So here I'm just adding some more chocolate shavings, and we're done. That's the end. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Alright, thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you did, leave a comment below, and I really hope you try this recipe at home. You take care now, and I will see you next week. Bye.